Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back with another Hearthstone live stream. Can't even get that right correctly. Okay, so YouTube has, for some reason, decided to completely eliminate my ability to look at the chat the way I was looking at it before. Like I literally couldn't even figure out a way to put a comment on it before both Bat Dan and Darian 1038 had already started talking. Darian says highlighted my day. Bat Dan says hi. Darian says hello. Bat Dan. I like that back and forth. I like it when my fans talk to each other. This shouldn't just be a what would that be? Like a presentation where I'm the person on the stage and everybody else in the audience is just expected to be silent or only talk to me. I want it to be a round table thing. Darian says nice, smiley faces. Nightbot looks like it's working. Batdan asks, do you want to collab? I believe the rules explain clearly no. At this point, there's no collabs. Don't bother asking. People keep asking this, and then I look at their channels, and they're either way bigger than me, and they have no reason to want to collab with me, or they're way smaller than me, and I have no reason to collaborate with them. Or more to the point, timing would be a huge issue, or the agreement on the game would be a huge issue. Speaking of huge issues, there's a ton of news here. Also, I want to ask throughout this stream about I'm thinking about adopting a standard release schedule of Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That would mean every Monday there would be 3 daily challenges, unless something came out like a watch and learn, which is what I got, and that's why I have a pack here. And then every Wednesday would only be 2, and then every Friday would only be 2. It would mean more streaming at a more consistent time. That's really the only schedule that would work for me. So Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday wouldn't work. It would mean more streaming. It would probably also mean less of the pre-recorded footage, which I personally wouldn't be too happy about, but consistency probably is key. So let me know what you think about that, and I'll take in people's consideration. We have DeJigger says DJIGOR. I don't know how you'd spell that. It's probably like Dijin. Maybe you just pronounce it Jigger. I don't know. That sounds kind of offensive when I say it out loud. Saying add me. I will, if, why not? I was gonna say you should add me instead, but why not? Let's just solve this quicker and easier than going back and forth. Nerd 2112 number 1332. There, if I didn't type in your name right, you're gonna have to type in mine, which is Rydo number 1423. Mine is shorter than yours anyway, so it would be easier for you. I do have for a daily challenge a challenge a friend, and I just have to win 3 games of any class, and then we're kind of done with that. So let's start with opening the watch and learn pack, see if we get anything new, and then we kind of need to go to the news. Oh, and I wanted to change the card back because these are extra card backs. Wow. Probably all complete repeats. I'm pretty close to having everything except for the important classic cards. So apparently I had some extra cards even. let's see. So that's something to consider. What is this new card that I just got? Apparently I didn't have 2 counter spells. Interesting. Yeah, I guess there's just a ton of cards also that I'm not aware I'm missing. I suppose we could figure that out pretty quickly though. So I'm gonna switch to the Call of the Light card back because we're only about a week, maybe a week and a half away from the card back changing again, so we'll try to have that as much as possible. Let's see. If I went to classic cards and typed in missing, let's see if we can get a better idea of how many cards I am missing. Alright. Or we can just accept this challenge and then we can move on. So Murlocs, the nerf has happened, and yesterday was Talk Like a Pirate Day, and so you got 100 gold if you logged in on that day. So I logged in on every single account doing that for another 100 gold. Frankly, you should be logging into Hearthstone once a day, even if you're not playing, just to look at the daily quests. It's just good strategy. Ooh, the chat hasn't been scrolling down automatically. Darian asks, how's my day? My day is going fine so far, and this is pretty much the beginning of it for me. I face a slightly daunting task of doing more paperwork after today's stream, but I was doing paperwork all yesterday too, so it's not a big deal. Just paperwork as in working with YouTube to schedule videos. But that's probably the worst part ever. Spolin is back. He says cavallo, which means horse, or maybe it's slang for something else. Spola, though, I'm gonna warn you again. I think I probably already told you English only, so like you're at strike 2 now. Like I'm gonna try to apply all rules very, very equally. So if I see a word I now know is not English again, you're gonna get banned, and it's gonna be pretty silly if it happens. So take that to heart. Darian says paperwork. What I mean by that is scheduling the YouTube videos. When you're uploading videos, there's just a lot of stuff that all of it could pretty much be automated if YouTube just did a better job of giving us tools to do that. But you put in the description of the video, you put in the title of the description, the title of the video, you put in tags, you put in what else do you put in? You put in the playlist it should go in. You schedule the time, you schedule the date, you schedule what it should say to Google Plus and Twitter. You for me, there's also 3 tabs of like that I don't have to change, but there's monetization, there's some other tab that I guess I never even look at, and then there's an advanced tab, and then in the advanced tab there's a recording date that you can set, and I like to put the release date as the recording date, so I have 2 places that tell me where the when this was released in case something gets messed up, and then you have to pick the thumbnail, and then you have to go over to the annotations and in screens, and you can't even do anything with annotations anymore. But the in screens, you have to apply a template or import the in screen from another video. I just import it from another video, and then you click the save button. Well, you have to click the save button a couple times. So you spend at least 5 minutes going through all of this, clicking through options on YouTube's video manager for every single video. And right now I'm particularly being rather lazy with it, and not like researching hashtags or researching YouTube tags to put in it. So I'm just kind of speeding through things and doing the most basic effort, because a lot of this doesn't really seem like it does too much for me right now at my level. And so it just gets filed down as paperwork. Now, I've told YouTube that ideally I should be able to upload a video, and then it would have these videos and say, this video is categorized, and then I should just be able to drag that video into a folder that says this is a Hearthstone video, and they should be able to say, oh well, we'll apply the Hearthstone template and we'll give it the next number and we'll release it on the next day according to your predetermined schedule. And it really should just be a 2 or 3 step process, but they haven't done that. Instead, what they're doing right now is they're redoing all of that in the background, and right now for the new YouTube video manager beta, it's missing a lot of functions, and my fear is that they're just going to get rid of functions, like just not let you to do things. And the new way of doing things with the beta is not really any better than the old way. It just stops you from clicking from one page to the other, and instead just kind of pops up windows to do the exact same thing. But it's still in the process of being made, so I don't really want to have to worry about it too much. So here's the card that got nerfed, but from what I'm feeling, I don't think it's really going to be that big of a nerf, honestly. I think Murlocs will still work pretty well. Spoiler says, so I can't speak Italian? That's right. It says English only, so only English. Darren says, wow, that's a lot. It is. It is an incredible amount of time. I thought about like live streaming while I was doing the paperwork just to show how incredibly boring it was, but what would really be the point of having an incredibly boring YouTube live stream? You'll see, if you go look at other people's descriptions and titles and things, you'll see a lot of people don't try it. And there's a plugin you can get to see the tags on videos too, and you'll see a lot of people don't bother to do any of it, and I'm not sure if any of it really helps. It is very possible that with all the tags I use, because you can have up to 500 characters worth of tags, and I try to stay around up to 500 characters worth of tags, it's possible that the YouTube algorithm one week is determining that that's too many tags, and thus I'm trying to game the system, and the next week they may think that that's exactly the right amount of tags, and thus I'm doing it good and my video should be put out there. And that is just one part of the major issue with YouTube, where there's just this incredible uncertainty. Generally speaking, coming from a computer science perspective, I would imagine the computers would want as much data as possible. one thing you can do on a YouTube video is certainly tag it with something that only your videos would have. That way when people are suggested new videos, they will be suggested your videos and only your videos, instead of potentially somebody who's just trying to rip off your videos or imitate you, or because it will take a little bit more. Spilla says I don't understand why he has to speak in English. The explanation is quite simple. It's because I only speak English, and therefore I can only moderate in English. So if people come in and they are speaking a different language, then I have to assume on the fly while I'm streaming that they're saying something offensive and violating one of the other rules. So I just have to assume that's because I don't know what it is. So there's an explicit rule to say English only, so I can apply all the other rules fairly. If YouTube chat auto-translated things like it should, that rule will go away. Like, that would be perfectly fine with me if people were typing in their native language and then YouTube auto-translated it to English. I'd be happy enough with that. But it doesn't right now, so that's the issue there. We have a ton of news here to also deal with, so let's see. Play this, just go through all of this. That's a lot of stuff. So it's kind of ironic. Last stream was on a Sunday. There was no news whatsoever. Now there's way too much news. I also have a lot of articles. Like, I have so many tabs open that I can't even get to all of them. I have to control tab to get to half of them.
Tonight,
let's see. Yeah, that's not really news. I don't see any reason to advertise a day one edition of Cyber Dimension Neptune for Goddesses Online. Well, I guess it is an online game. I mean, it's gonna give you a bunch of stuff. A bunch of kind of pointless things in the long run, I would imagine. Let's take this. And see, I was a little scared about the 4 Horsemen, but he didn't even get around to playing them. The crowdfunding platform has secured $60 million in investment, which is probably a good thing. It makes it a little scary that they weren't able to fund themselves, and they needed that investment. Why did the challenge and friend not work? Didn't somebody... Wasn't I just playing a friend? Seriously? Alright, well, somebody sent me a friend request. For some reason the game has freaked out and the challenge a friend didn't work. Maybe there's a glitch. Wow, that'll really suck if I can't get this 80 gold. So, a handful of new features geared towards creators, such as better analytical tools and additional pledge rewards. Beyond that, plans to expand its staff of 80. So, Patreon is got something. Good, I guess I'll just see, do we have a Tavern Brawl to do? Yes, we do. We'll work on that. Welcome, heroes, the great stone of challenge. Your deck building powers will be tested. You may only use spells with an even cost. You may only use minions with an odd. Build a deck and fight the stone of challenge. Well, spells with an even number. Let's go with the mage. I think this probably will work fine. I guess 0 is neither even nor odd. I don't understand this. Why is it letting me do things then? Like, it's showing me everything. So is it just gonna tell me I can't do things later? Like, So let's just build a deck right now as we understand it, and well, let's see what happens later. There's a chat. Darren says, can I talk to you about this theory and challenge me? It's Darien 1038. Let's do this Tavern Brawl first. What theory? Sorry about the chat. It's just not going to it's not going to be good today until, or maybe ever again at this rate, because this live chat is just not streaming. It's scrolling down here. Maybe this will work. Red Phoenix is online. I'm pretty sure your guess as to when I started watching is broken. Let's see. Let's go with elementals, I guess, now. I don't fully understand what Red Phoenix meant by that. Take this. Take this. Take this. I'll take that. That's not actually an elemental, but whatever. Take that. Alright. Done. Your deck building process. You may only use spells with an even cost. So 2, 4, 6, and minions with an odd cost. So now I guess I have to come back here and take anything out that matches that. And this is gonna take a while, isn't it? Yeah, that gets rid of 7 things. And see. That Darian says that we live in a simulation that Neil deGrasse Tyson or something like that made it. You mean Neil deGrasse Tyson? A lot of these conspiracy theories are something I'm not going to have anything to really add to it, and there's really no point to it. Like, you, as a normal human being, when you get down to it, there has been some scientific theory that maybe this universe is a simulation, but it doesn't matter. Like, this is a philosophical idea that has been around even long before the idea of a simulation has happened. There was philosophy many thousands of years ago that that all of reality was just the dream of one man or one god. It doesn't change literally anything. You just have to live your life assuming that it has a value and assuming that it's real. It doesn't really matter one way or not. It seems pretty common to... Here, let's not play that one. It's that the human brain seems to like to play with these ideas a lot. And it really, again, just doesn't do anything for you. How applicable is knowledge like that really gonna what's that really gonna change? Take that card. That's a good one to take. I imagine it's a good one to take at least. So, like, you're free to talk about whatever you want to talk about within the rules of the chat. But frankly, I am so uninterested in these conspiracy theories or these theories that are so broad and just don't really connect. There we go. I think we've got a deck we can play now. That it doesn't really matter to me or not. There was like the first Sherlock Holmes story. Watson told Sherlock Holmes once that the moon rotated around the earth, and Sherlock Holmes goes, now I have to spend my effort to forget that because that's totally useless information, and I need all the space I can to have useful information. Red Phoenix says, never mind, what do you think of the iPhone X and 8? And Red Phoenix says, hey, Nightbot works. Nightbot's working right now. I am not so certain it's going to stay working though. I think it might just break after about 15 minutes because of Google's new APIs just thinking it's spamming. Well, I honestly didn't look at anything with the iPhone 8 at all. I did see a little bit about the iPhone X. I use Android phones, and so it doesn't really matter to me. The iPhone X, for its $1,000 price tag, which is about $300 more, if not $400 more than what I would expect for a top-of-the-line cell phone, they could have figured out a way to put in a better
the dam stand ready.
A headphone clip again, put the headphones back in, but then they would have to admit that they were wrong. And honestly, I think a lot of people were hysterical about the headphones, and then in reality they never used it, whereas a lot of people weren't concerned about losing the headphones, and then they realized they actually were using it a lot. I saw an image that pretty much compared the iPhone to the Samsung Galaxy S8, and so it's not really doing anything amazing. There really isn't going to be a major increase in cell phones for a while because the DDR RAM that they're using is sort of being price fixed / is in really high demand. So the the memory is not going to get much bigger. The CPUs are very standard. Everybody's using everything. There's only 2 or 3 companies that make new architectures of CPUs, and then there's a bunch of companies that make knockoff chips. The graphics and the glasses and the touchscreens can't really get that much bigger for a while, and frankly, you're going to get diminishing returns on all of that. We've kind of gotten everything we need in cell phones. The making it mainstream and making it less likely to just be destroyed because of water damage or drop damage. We've gone as far as we needed it to. I had an iPAQ PDA, which was kind of like predecessors to cell phones. They didn't have any cellular phone service at all, but they were personal digital assistant PCs, and that thing would break if you dropped it 1 inch. Literally, I dropped it 1 inch once and it broke, and I had to send this thing back like 6 times. It was an incredibly expensive device that did very little. It barely had any color at all. There were models that were just in black and white. So we've gone as far as we can. There is a couple caveats I've heard about the iPhone X for what you're paying. It doesn't, from what I've heard at least, come with a quick charge charger. So right out the bag when you buy it, you're going to have to spend another $50 to just have something that can quick charge over the charger. Or you're going to have to buy a wireless charger, which I'm glad they are adapting to that standard. However, they also aren't letting people use NFC for the apps. So apps on Android can use NFC to do all kinds of weird things. For video games, there's one where there are apps out there where you can simulate amiibos, so you don't have to actually spend money on amiibos. But that's just not something that the iPhone has allowed anybody to do. So NFC right now for the iPhones is just for payment. The face unlock technology and the face stuff, the face chat and emojis and stuff is just a gimmick, really. It's based on Connect technology from what I hear, so that's slightly interesting. But the bigger issue, and that is one of our news stories today. Oh, I didn't even start a timer. One of our news issues today is that the newest version of iOS is getting rid of 32-bit apps, which means that a lot of the old games are simply just not going to allow. The old games are just not going to allow. They're not going to work on the new iOS. So half of the old things that they refused to update on the iOS store are going to disappear, which probably is a terrible idea because the iOS store is probably full of garbage. But in general, iPhone fans are gonna probably get around to getting it. I think iPhone people, though, are also going to probably take more time to upgrade going forward. Like, nobody really needs yet another version of the iPhone unless they break their old one and can't have it repaired cheaply. And I think we've hit a saturation point. Moving on with more video game news. The Minecraft Better Together update is out, so the Win 10 PC version, Xbox, and mobile games are all now updated to work together and play together. This is formerly known as the Pocket Edition, and the Win 10 version. It doesn't seem like the PlayStation version can play together, because PlayStation is just forcing that exclusivity. Let's see. D-Long doing battle and play mode. Anybody want to challenge me on the Tavern Brawl? Let's see. Let's see if this works. Just pick somebody at random and see if they accept, because this will save some time. Yeah, we're in a weird position because half, like, except for the news, there's actually considerably little that needs to be done, because we gotta challenge a friend and watch and learn together, which makes it real easy as far as the daily quests. Let's see, I got way too many tabs up. Way too many tabs. Couple games free. It came out free. I don't know if Back to Bed may still be free. Darian said, "Do me, I'll do it." You have to challenge someone for it to work. Wow, I have to challenge somebody. Interesting. I think it's just broken. It used to not work that way. We'll see if it works this way. Red Phoenix, my internet just crashed. Yeah, Back to Bed was free. Abe's Odyssey was free on the Humble Store. The most recent Humble Bundle was out there, and I spent $1 this time just to get the lowest tier. It's getting more and more difficult for me to get all of the games on the Humble Store without getting a bunch of duplicates, and I'm just trying not to get duplicates, because that's something that I'm just not going to. I don't want to have to deal with a bunch of duplicate things. Red Phoenix says, I kind of want to kill my internet. There's a PUBG inspired Fortnite Battle Royale, which is going to launch as a free standalone mode. Fortnite, by the way, also for a short time allowed Xbox and PlayStation players to play against each other, and that was apparently a bug because PlayStation didn't want to allow it, and then it got fixed. That does not bode well for Fortnite, but it's a lot better than Battleborn, because Battleborn just kept trying to be a pay-to-play with microtransactions game when it should have been a free-to-play game, and it was just getting its lunch eaten by Overwatch. And now Gearbox has just said we've wound down development on that, so they're not going to make any they're not going to make any more content as it is for Battleborn, which kind of sucks because Battleborn isn't an inherently bad game. In fact, it makes a lot of sense why they would have developed it because they're clearly trying to get some of their newer employees up to snuff for making Borderlands 3 and just have a level of like foundation to work on, because they want to, hopefully they want to do something new on Borderlands 3. Also, Borderlands 3 should probably be a little bit further in development than it is. It's gonna be funny, but it's possible that the gearbox just collapses before it even finishes Borderlands 3. It's being run by Randy Pitchford, who people don't like, and I think there's a decent reason or two to agree with that sentimentality, and he doesn't, at the very least, his own Twitter doesn't seem like he's too focused on running his company. He seems like he's out and about doing a bunch of random things instead of actually like doing what a CEO should do. But maybe the people under him, maybe the managers below him, are doing all the real work. So it's still possible it's really good. Red Phoenix said, "Did I hear about the new hurricane? The U.S. is getting hit by all sides." It's just hurricane season. Don't fall into too much hysteria about it. It is worse than it has been because of climate change, but also give it 5 years before the entire United States gets flooded and we're all underwater. It's going to take a little bit longer. So yeah, I think Fortnite Battle Royale is a good pivot probably for Fortnite, because Fortnite was not going to make any money. First look at Dead Alive's Extreme Venus Vacation. Let's see, is this coming over to the West? Probably not, but it does look good. They're getting that the character animation technology down.
Do not fear power. Fear those who wield it.
Let's see. Where's my mouse? Do we need... Is this a news station? I think I've probably already reported that the PlayStation 4 PS Vita game in Japan called Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon Infinite Combat is due spring 2018. Again, it's a top-down RPG game with pretty poor graphics, but then it has the anime series cutscenes, so it's gonna probably not be that good. The EA CEO Andrew Wilson has joined Intel's board of directors. Not a bad thing in general, because what that tells me is that
The light protects me.
you're going to be able to you're gonna have a more of a voice of a video game company inspire the development of the next generation of CPUs, which honestly CPUs are probably very focused on playing games right now anyways, because that's the only thing really pushing sales of the major things, but probably not a terrible thing. Let's see, play this, and then we play this, and then we do this. Let's move on to the next story. Here's an interesting phrase. Steins Gate Elite is a full animation adventure game coming to Switch. What does that mean? What in the world does that mean? Let's see. Includes roots not featured in the TV anime. So, I guess what they mean by full animation adventure game is that it's going to be probably like a visual novel with branching paths, something like The Walking Dead and Telltale games, with animation instead of 3D animation. A lot of this is from the Tokyo Game Show 2017, so which I thought the Tokyo Game Show had already happened this year, but maybe they have 2 of them.
I must decide.
I gotta scroll down every time I think there might be a new chat message. There's a, I don't know if I should talk about mods, but there's a mod out there that puts one of the GTA Grand Theft Auto characters into Zelda Breath of the Wild. Which, okay, what does that work? There, the challenge a friend worked, so we're done with that, but I need somebody to challenge me. Anybody? Anybody here wanna let me win the Tavern Brawl so I don't have to mess around with this? I'm gonna hold out here this time. I think Darian wants to play me. Darian, thanks for the 80 gold. So I'm gonna sit here for a few minutes. Send me a friendly challenge with the Tavern Brawl if you're willing to let me win, because I don't want to really bang my head against that Tavern Brawl. That's a complicated one that is just gonna really, for me, come down to randomness. I'd rather be playing the Murloc game right now. I'd rather just be playing my Murloc deck in ranked play, even though I'm not really getting anywhere in ranked play, because Darian says if you fight me, I'll let you win. Thank you, Darian. This is also glitched. Every time they put out an update, there's something glitched, where the friend screen just now stays up. Maybe that's intended, but that seems kind of silly. Let's see, let's get rid of that one, and that one. SteamWorld Dig 2 is coming to PC on September 22nd. So if you're a fan of the SteamWorld Dig series, the sequel should, I imagine that should be almost worldwide. I guess you have to say almost worldwide nowadays, though, because honestly, worldwide is assuming a little too much. There's always some country somewhere that either doesn't have Steam in Hull or in some other way blocks it.
I'll give it a shot.
Like I said before, iOS 11 has rolled out. That's the end of support for 32-bit apps. I have on my Android phone an old version of one app because the creators of the app pretty much sold out to a different company, and because they sold out to this different company, the different company changed the app completely and made it a lot worse. And so I don't ever update it, and I installed the old version. If Android at one point came out and said we're gonna drop support for that app that would really suck. In fact, I probably have a significant number of old apps that just haven't been updated in a long time because they're good enough, they work, they're finished, and it would be really sucky to lose all of those. Darian is helping me a lot here.
Side effects? No. Trust me.
The Switch was found out to have a secret game, the NES golf game that was programmed by Satoru Iwata, the former president of Nintendo of Japan, who died. Basically, the reason why it's in there, from what I've heard, is because it is a Japanese tradition charm to give good luck to the console. So it's a tribute to him passing, but it is also like a good luck charm. It makes a lot of sense in their culture why they did it. As far as anybody can tell, so far there's no way to actually launch the game without severe hacking and removing the game. But there probably is some way. Ooh, a legendary. Get a rare. Probably all of these are going to be dusted, but I bet this isn't. Actually, I guess you know it's not going to be, because they're not going to give you any extra duplicate legendaries until you have everything. So 4 of these cards disenchanted to dust, and we're almost up to 800 dust, which means maybe I can make an epic out there. And then I gotta get really a lot better about this. It is slightly interesting that the new NES, the NES Golf version in the Switch game it has the ability to use the new controls and interface ideas, interface recommendations. So somewhere in the debug or something, somebody can launch that game, and they actually did make some changes to it, which honestly makes it seem more like it's not. You would think they'd be violating the rules by changing something that he programmed, because clearly he didn't do the new programming on it. So I have Baron Gordon now. Maybe I can make use of that. And that really leaves me with only 1 victory, and then we can just move over to the European account. So standard, rank 18, Murloc. Let's see how this works. Now, like, let's just see, now that the nerf's in place, how well my Murloc deck works. Looking at the non-scrolling text. I'm still here, don't worry, said Red Phoenix. That's alright. I assume people are watching. Like, oh, I don't worry about it. Like, I don't look at any of the numbers or anything when I'm streaming. That doesn't really benefit anything. If I was to go look and it said 4 people watching now, it's just gonna make me feel probably inadequate. Darren said put it down to let for spells. Darian said no. Peace out for a little, I gotta get a haircut. Never mind, not till later. That's fine, like, either way. Like, people gotta live their lives and do things besides watch YouTubers stream live. The videos will be here. I was thinking about how, if Blizzard specifically, like, said you've got to take down all your Hearthstone videos, that would inherently do probably the most significant amount of damage to my channel over anything else. because there's way more Hearthstone videos than there is anything else. Let's see. Here's an article about the state of VR right now. Less than 10% of the VR games out there made more than $250,000. So that's what you can spend to make a VR title and bring it to the market and hope there's at least enough sales to get your money back. So yeah, the VR industry right now is stagnant to dead. I mean, that's really all you can say about it. It's stagnant, and there's no reason to believe that it's going to improve in the short term. Let's see, the new Tomb Raider film has an official trailer you can see on YouTube. I'm debating on whether I want to play the next Tomb Raider game that I have, but I'm debating whether to do it in December or wait until this movie, which comes out, let's see, in March 10th. So if I waited till February, that would be the more logical thing to do. But I probably should wait till February. Because I was doing all the paperwork and scheduling, I'm starting to think about what I'm gonna do in December, since I kind of already know what I'm gonna do in November, which November may be very weird. I may very well just abandon my current time slots for a month and have only one thing plus Hearthstone air per day. Just depends on how much time I can get away from it. Square Enix announced a smartphone game called Battle of Blades. I believe this was the game that had the teaser with many different weapons from many different games. It's a 4-on-4 real-time battles. Let's see if I can see a video of it and see if there's anything really worth seeing there.
Job's done.
It's very anime-esque game. Is it a card game or a top-down action game, or are the action events pre-scripted? It seems like a top-down thing where you're directly controlling the characters. Microtransactions, free to play. It will launch in Japan, so very possibly won't even come out in the West or the rest of the world. Let's see. Red Phoenix says, I have an idea for an awesome piece of tech. Well, if you share the idea, then you'll never be able to build it yourself. So before you go any further with that statement, ask yourself, do you want to try to patent this or build it yourself or sell it yourself? Right. But if you're willing to give it away, it's something you might regret later. Tell me about it. And a lot of times it's not the idea. Everybody's had the idea for technology. It's just the implementation. Can you actually build it? Can you actually get it to work? And that's where the real struggle comes in. Moving on with the news, Gun Gale 2 has been announced for the PlayStation 4 and Switch. And I believe it's launching worldwide in the winter. And it's always a little bit of weirdness that half the people seem to think a game like Gun Gale shouldn't be allowed outside of Japan because it's too creepy, I guess would be the right term to use. But if you've got enough sales and a big enough company backing you, it still comes out. And Gun Gale as a series has certainly sold a lot for its shooting girls with love hearts to make them fall in love with you idea.
Phones are a girl's best friend.
Red Phoenix says basically it's a smartwatch but no screen, you just tap the phone sized screen and there you go, you now have a screen, and tap it to a laptop sized screen and keyboard, and now you basically have a laptop. I'm not following your concept here. Are you saying you tap it and then it projects a hologram of a phone-sized screen, or are you saying you tap it and it just magically becomes a phone-sized screen? Like I'm missing some details, I think there. And you can see that Jades are still didn't get really nerfed at all. In all honesty, I think they should have nerfed Jades, even though they're relatively new. It seems very much like they fixed something they wanted to fix and claimed it was going to fix Jade Druid, and it really didn't. So Murloc's never really won against Jade Druids or Jade Shamans or Jades in general, so I'm not surprised that didn't work. Tap it to a phone screen size.
Throw versus Valir.
Watch your back.
For Doomhammer.
You're saying tap, I wonder if you mean tape. No, that wouldn't make sense. Well, in general, they're still working on the foldable phones and put the image to the screen. Oh, you mean like Chromecasting, don't you? You mean like share it to a phone, share it to a laptop, which would then just put the CPU and the RAM and the memory storage on the cell phone device. Which I think you're probably a little off on scale in practicality, because all around and behind the screen is the CPU. It's squeezing all of that into a wristwatch and still have it being something you want to actually work with, as far as CPU power and storage, is a little beyond our technology right now. Like, I've had a similar idea where I'd like to have a pocket watch that was like a smartphone, a smartwatch, and there was a Kickstarter for something like that, but they're not getting anywhere, like most Kickstarters. So it just squeezing everything down and sourcing the parts and getting the parts cheap enough so it's not a $1,000 item is a problem. Even when you're going larger, like this pocket watch wasn't really pocket watch sized. It was much more like a donut size, and they still couldn't squeeze into that. Certainly these technologies will exist at some point. It's just, it's going to take a couple more generations of squeezing down all the technology. Apparently, Sony has confirmed that Dragon's Crown Pro is coming to PlayStation 4 on the 25th of January in 2018. What is Dragon's Crown Pro? Let's watch the video. It's an Atlas game, so you kind of know immediately that Atlas publisher, vanilla RPG. Yeah, I was gonna say, if it's an Atlas game, you know it's gonna be a RPG. Or almost certainly it's gonna be. Now, I think my marks are gonna work here. Ah, this is one of those games where it's a group of characters walking around the screen, attacking a bunch of enemies in an RPG. It's a side-scrolling RPG, and it's set in a less anime artistic style and more of a fantasy style that is slightly reminiscent of what you would see on rock album covers. It's kind of heavy metal-ish, but not quite there. It's a little bit more fantasy than that. That is one game I would like to play, so if this is the upgraded, better version of it, that would be fine. Fine by me, for it to come to PC. Red Phoenix says maybe it could be storage and a basic CPU to cast to a device. Well, the whole idea of casting to a smartphone and a laptop right now doesn't work at all. Even just casting the video. The USB-C connector does have mini HDMI as one of its cords, so in theory you could plug in a USB-C to an HDMI cord and then plug it into a TV or monitor, but cell phones and laptops don't have HDMI in, and you can't Chromecast to. I've never seen any cell phone or laptop that you can Chromecast to. I haven't even heard of like a website that would allow you to do something like that, or an application that would allow you to do something like that. But storage wise, if you can get a micro SD card in it, you can get probably the amount of storage that's average, at most 128 gigabytes to 256 gigabytes, with also an external 128 to 256 micro SD cards. So storage you probably could get into a smartwatch. CPU wise, the CPU chip is probably going to be the exact size of the watch. It would take up all the space, and on top of that you would need cooling of some kind of passive cooling, and you'd need a battery that is going to probably also be the exact size of the watch and twice as thick as the CPU. So it would probably be, if I was to guess, at least half an inch tall, which is really, really tall with the current technology. The way the Apple smartwatches, which are right now the probably most powerful smartwatches are right now, the way they work and get to be as small as they are is simply because their CPU is very low power on the CPU. It doesn't use a lot of battery. The batteries are very small, and it's very low in its processing power as well as the wattage it uses. So there's a lot of cheating to get right now. Yeah. Sharing could be done with apps, but then you'd have to have an app for like everything. Losing the screen on the watch, I think would, if you were to test market this idea, would also probably be something that people wouldn't want. Like the idea of I can't look at my watch unless I have my cell phone with me kind of destroys the desire for a lot of people to have it, because the idea, a lot of people with the Apple Watch are probably thinking a scenario where they would go to a gym, lock their phone in their locker, which is probably not a smart move in the first place, but whatever. And then they would be able to just look at their watch when their phone isn't with them. If they're carrying around a bigger device, and this is inherently the problem with any bigger devices, if I have a bigger device, it can have more storage, it can have more battery, it can have more power. Why would I need a smaller device? And that's pretty much why the Apple Watches haven't succeeded much at all. Let's see, play this, and play this, and this. Kill this one. I guess I should have used this guy to kill him. Then end the turn. So, Red Phoenix says, so now it's basically a Fitbit with wireless storage. Yeah, and if you follow my suggestions, which could be wrong, but the idea of something on your person, like a watch, that is just a networked wireless storage, might be more durable and have more appeal. Like, if my cell phone and laptop can wirelessly connect to my watch, and on my watch is just, say, the capability of playing videos and music, and that's kind of all it's doing. So if it was like an MP4 player or video player, if it was like an iPod, and then I had 250 gigabytes of music on that device and then not taking up that space on the cell phone, that would be interesting. What? Whenever this attacks and kills a minion. Darn it. Didn't pay attention to what I was doing. Whatever. There's a lot of, like, Atari has a Kickstarter out right now with a watch project that was supposed to be it's supposed to be this thing, but it's kind of a scam too. So I wouldn't really fund it, but go look at the Atari watch. Go look at the mini watches on Kickstarter. A lot of people have had this idea. It's going to happen. It's just, it will happen after the iWatch is way better and does a lot more. So there's really not enough room for a lot of competition there, and you're really just trying to squeeze it down. At the end of the day, the only thing smaller would be the idea of making like an entire computer in contact lenses, or an entire computer on a chip that you just put in your brain. These technologies probably will happen, but maybe not in our lifetime. Let's do this. And let's go ahead and attack this and end the turn. Like, so many projects go bankrupt trying to get to the point of having a finished product. But it's a good idea. It's not a bad idea. It's just the implementation is what's killing everybody. Moving on with news, and I think we can move on to the European account too. We played, I believe, 2 games here. One failed against Jade Druid, and one succeeded very well against, I think that was a Pirate Rogue deck. And because we had a watch and learn and a challenge a friend, we got through the daily quests really quickly on that account. So moving on to the European accounts. And Mobile Suit Gundam Battle Operation 2 has been announced for PS4. It's going to launch in 2018 in Japan. It looks pretty good, so I couldn't imagine it selling terribly if it came worldwide. Let's see. The Idolmaster Stellar Stage has been announced for PS4. Pretty obvious here that the Tokyo Game Show is going to have mostly PS4 and Vita sale announcements. So far, there should have been some more Switch announcements, but I wonder if they're just going to take a little bit longer to announce the Switch versions, or they're going to do that at some kind of Nintendo Direct. Because last I had heard, the Switch was doing pretty well in Japan. December 21st for 8,200 yen, so that is roughly $82, or the equivalent of $82 for the Idolmaster game. It's maybe a little bit cheaper. Maybe the translation rate there is switched around. Alright. We got another Tavern Brawl to do, which this is gonna suck. And then Rogue cards and Mage cards and Paladin cards, we gotta trade something out, and I can't trade any of it out. Again, Mage class cards. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take Mage cards, and then I'm just gonna say, you know what, you finish it for me. Let's see if when it builds the deck for me, if it followed the rules. Final Fantasy IX has launched for the PlayStation 4. Let's see, the PlayStation 4 version of the 2000 release. It's in high definition movies and characters, autosave functionality, optional booster functions, including high speed mode and no encounter mode, the master all abilities booster, which allows the player to automatically master equipped weapons and gear. So clearly it didn't follow the rules of this Tavern Brawl. PlayStation 4 trophy support. So if you have any love for Final Fantasy IX, you can now replay it, which is, I guess, a good thing. I don't know really what you do with Final Fantasy, though.
You want to cast a spell? I want to cast a spell.
Do you, in Final Fantasy, try to play them all? Do you do just 13? Do you play 9? I don't think 9 was really in my line of vision. Like, honestly, if I'm gonna get into Final Fantasy, I probably would play Final Fantasy 13. And then, if I really enjoyed it, maybe I would play Final Fantasy 1, 2, or 3. Whichever I figured out was the best of those, just to play the first few of them. And then I would then maybe I would play like the latest one. Like try to go beginning, middle, and end. Like, so I'd probably play Final Fantasy 1, Final Fantasy 13, which is the most popular one, and then Final Fantasy whatever is the latest one. And I think that would probably be the best way to do it. Red Phoenix says maybe a computer hub could work in a house sense. That's how computers used to work too, is that you would have one main computer and then several dummy terminals that were very cheap electronic devices that would connect to the main computer. It's not something that modern computers really do because it's not worth it, really. Like, the benefits you get are offset by a very high delay in responses and just an inability to really transfer high definition graphics. It's easier to build a $500 computer and hand it to an employee these days, particularly if it's really just a $300 computer you've bought in bulk for an office, than it is to have a $1,000 server that the second that server has to reboot, everybody in your entire office is not working anymore. It breaks problems up. It stops one employee from doing something that breaks all the computers, and just instead they break their computer. But for my own computer setup, I have the backup server, which is a lot of. It's nice to have, but it's a lot of overkill. And I have my gaming PC, and then my cell phone, and a tablet that I basically don't use at all, and then my gaming laptop that doesn't even turn on, and then several other media devices like PlayStations and Rokus and the Nest Pi, which I guess is not really connected too much to the network at all. Like right now my computer is backing up to my backup server, but it's internal network, so it shouldn't really be affecting the streaming quality any.
All realities, all dimensions are.
I'm really trying to win here, so I need to be done. Red Phoenix, I should bring every idea I have to you because you bring new light to them. Good. You should bring it to a lot of people that you can trust aren't going to steal your idea, but like there's I'm practically an expert when it comes to gadgets and electronics because I look at them all and consider purchasing them all. I'm an obsessive shopper when it comes to that, and I've seen a lot of gadgets, and doing product research is a very good idea. Let's see. Next bit of news we have is Dissidia Final Fantasy NT adds Noctis. I believe that means that the Dissidia Final Fantasy is the online one, and so they're just adding a character from the latest Final Fantasy. It's Dissidia Final Fantasy is due out for PlayStation 4 January 11th in Japan and January 30th. So I guess this isn't the online thing, or this is a new version of the online Final Fantasy. It's certainly has all the characters from the popular ones. Darn it, I should have used this. That was a mistake. Final Fantasy has gone in some strange ways. very fast-paced action I'm seeing here in this video. Like, this is not a turn-based strategy game. This is a combo fighting system game with a lot of bars and such. Alright. I'm just gonna keep playing here, I guess, and hope for the best. Like, yeah, I don't know what the city is, but it seems like it's just fighting, and it takes out the RPG elements. Which, okay, I guess that's an interesting spin-off of an idea.
You asked for it. Oh, it is on.
Let's see, Red Phoenix says, I have a game idea. Are you up for it? Sure, if you want to tell me your game idea. The thing about games compared to hardware is there's almost nothing you can do in a game. It's just how much budget and animation and such. Like, it can work as long as a lot easier than the physical limitations of hardware. I guess I have to confirm here, don't I? Dynasty Warriors 9 launches in 2018 for PlayStation 4 to be released via the Sony store also. So more Dynasty Warriors, who would have guessed? Everybody who knows the Dynasty Warriors series.
Cast a spell. I want to cast a spell.
Get in there! Fight, maggot!
No, I don't actually want to do that. Actually, I have to do that,
I
don't I?
don't have enough mana.
That was a bad play. That was a bad play. Earth Defense Forces 5 launches December 7th. I bet that one doesn't come to the Americas, though. Sadly, Earth Defense Forces, which is a decent series, should come over to the West, but I haven't seen any history of it doing that. Let's see. PlayStation 4 and Xbox crossplay switched on for Fortnite for a short time. We already talked about that.
I wonder.
Let's remember to play. I don't understand. Is one not considered even odd? So you can play 1 mana creatures, 2 mana creatures. Will I be able to play 3 mana creatures? Like, I wonder if this Tavern Brawl is just not following the rules it's set for itself. Zone of Enders, the second run remastered, is coming to PlayStation 4. Let's see. Half of these games won't even get reported on by the English video game people because there's just nobody that cares about them, or they just can make a pretty good educated guess that it's not coming over to outside of Japan. So Zone of Enders is another popular one. Let's see. 2 main games were released in the series alongside a spin-off for Game Boy Advance. Plans for a third main Zone of Enders games were cancelled after the HD re-releases of Zone of Enders 1 and 2 did not attract enough sales. So it's not a hugely successful series. Oh, I didn't play that right either.
Job's done.
I'm pretty sure Zone of Enders is a mecha anime, and just being a mecha game, like transforming robots, is not going to attract too many people, but you probably could get a few. Let's see. So Red Phoenix says, so you're in a new city that generates endlessly in one direction. There's an army of endless monsters to destroy. Oops, didn't finish it yet.
I wonder.
Destroying this city, some would be around the city, and every building would be explorable. So it's kind of like a Minecraft where the city, or an endless runner, but you're generating textures.
What to do?
So to
You're in trouble now.
like I said, you can do anything. It's how much money in the animation and programming. The problem that you're gonna have to run into. Oh yeah, and it's an MMO. Well, now you've got two problems. You're making it an MMO for kind of no reason. I would say that idea should be on the back burner, as you need to see if the game succeeds first as a single player game, then make an MMO version of it. The thing is, as players continuously play the game, they're going to want to see new and varied content. You're going to constantly have to build more elements of the city. Or it's going to look pretty empty and pretty bland. And you're going to have the secondary problem of making the city look realistic. Unless you're going for an artistic style where it's like a glitched out city and buildings can just clip through each other, and it totally is like in a virtual world where the gag is that it's not supposed to look believable. But even if you fix the problem by saying it's not supposed to look believable, and buildings can be clipping through each other, and they can be at odd angles, and the city cannot be designed like with straight roads, but instead with with just garbage randomly placed based on a random seed that was generated, then you just got to get the buildings to be varied, and the enemies to be varied certainly too. I'm not exactly hearing or sure what would bring people what would bring people back to this game after a few hours. Like, if you selling it immediately as an endless world that just goes on forever because it's one world online with every player on it, is what Red Phoenix is saying here as an MMO. Well, how, like,
Job's done.
what's the reason for that? Like, why would people want to go forward? When you had there was a game that recently came out called The Long Walk or The Year Walk, where you're walking from one point to the other, and the only reason why you'd want to play something like that is you know that you're trying to get to the top of a mountain, and that's the end goal. If it's an endless runner, you have to put in all kinds of gameplay mechanics and get away from reality and just say the reason why people want to continuously do this is because they need to get the upgrades, they need to unlock the new characters, they need to get experience. City of Brass just is coming out right now, and the City of Brass is kind of somewhat like what you're describing, where it's levels in a city full of monsters, and each level has been custom designed, and there's a lot to be said for custom designing where buildings and things are to make good gameplay. You can't just randomly make something like a Counter-Strike Go map. You can't, and it be fun and entertaining, or an Overwatch map. Like, people spend a lot of time on that. If players are going to overlook the fact that a game map is just difficult to get around, and you run into the danger of players getting lost and upset with the fact that they're lost. You're gonna have to have something else that brings in the interests the player and gives them a reason for wanting to wander around a slightly clunky map. Doom and its whole snap map multiplayer functionality is also trying to fix that issue. There's not a lot of technology like Speed Tree, which just has an algorithm where it randomly places trees. I've never heard of something for like the Unreal Engine that was Speed City or Speed Buildings. I know the unturned demos that you can get certainly have a lot of that. Actually, before we do this, let's cancel this. Well, we're gonna play one more game, I guess, whether I want to or not.
Jaina versus Gul'dan.
Your soul shall be mine.
You asked for it.
No Man's Sky, to say a sacrilegious thing, was also the idea of a universe where you start on a planet and there's sometimes enemies on the planet and the planet randomly generates, and there were claims at least that everybody was playing in the same universe and that it was an MMO. So you're gonna have to certainly have No Man's Sky and games like that in the back of your head and say, where's the story? Like, so far you've mentioned no story, no motivation. Who's the main character? If you create your own character, what's the general backstory or reason for it? As far as I understand it, World of Warcraft is full of story and backlore. Players are going to want that. Let's see, let's look at the chat. The point is mass chaos monsters and other players. Maybe giant monsters to be like Pacific Rim. That is an interesting thing. I don't think I've ever seen something like Shadow of the Colossus in an MMO style. Something where the enemies are very giant, but there's been definitely been some big characters in MMO, and then you have to party up, and then it becomes more and more of that. Mass chaos is fun for a while, but it gets eventually it's a little boring. Like, believe it or not, video game players really do want structure in their game. If they want mass chaos, they'll go play something like Call of Duty, where you can just run and gun. But even in something like Call of Duty, there's structure. You know where the map is. You know where characters are likely to come around from. A pure randomness element has never really sold. Like, the Lego games are designed so that the player can be a little random and just run around and jump, but eventually it pushes them down into, you need to go to the right of the screen, you need to finish the level, or you won't see any more content.
The sun well.
Get in there, fight, maggot.
Let's see. Nico Atsumi, which I believe is a cat collecting game, is coming to VR for PlayStation VR in 2018. So we're starting to see 2018. Of course, things being announced for 2018 may get pushed back to 2019 or 20. Is this a real article to talk about? There's a PlayStation 4 Boost Your Play lineup promo. that's, I think, going to... It's really just a trailer for multiple games, so... Yeah, I don't think there's really anything to talk about there. Square Enix announces a survival action shooter called Left Alive for PlayStation 4 PC.
For the crusade!
Let's see if we can get...
Eyes are open.
Push forward.
Just move forward and all that. Let's see if we can see a video of this Left Alive. It's got an interesting thumbnail. Of course, I'm playing YouTube videos as I'm watching them. If I consistently criticized people's ideas, people are going to have pretty thick skin too, because I am a critic, which means I'm also a hater. Like, I'm going to tear it down. And so a lot of times it might be more mentally healthy for people to just have an idea and love their idea as it is and not tell people about it, because as soon as people start poking holes in their idea, people often don't react well to it. Even video game creators, supposedly professionals, have that problem. Like, I don't point out too much of the good things of games. I point out the bad things, because it's in the bad things they can improve. The good things, they're not likely to improve. See, this game Left Alive, it is set in a post-apocalypse destroyed city game. It's definitely a good setting, but let's see if we can... A survival action shooter made by Square Enix. That's the weirdest part about it, is that it's made by Square Enix. So I suspect this is an experiment, and kind of in the same way that they turned Metal Gear Solid into a zombie shooter game, and they're trying to go with maybe a Resident Evil vibe too. Red Phoenix says, "You know, I have always wanted a second anti-chamber." Yeah, I believe the creator of Anti-Chamber is making a game that is a spiritual sequel to it. I don't know if it's going to just be called Anti-Chamber 2, but he did... There was also a game that looked like Anti-Chamber and used light, but I don't think it was made by the same people. I don't remember the name of that game, though. It came out earlier this year. Like 6 months ago or more. But just an Anti-Chamber 2 would be fine. There is... He would have to think up 60 more life lessons, because in Anti-Chamber there was these life lesson photos that you would find, and they were the collectibles in the game. If he just reuses all of them, then that'd be kind of sad. It would almost just be a remix at that point. He'd also have to think up probably 60 plus more puzzles, and that's probably the only thing really limiting him, is does he want to spend more of his life doing the same thing that he's already done once to make a sequel. Red Pink says, "And I love it when people poke holes in my ideas, because then I have to think of ways to fix it." Well, that is certainly a good attitude to take. That is the right attitude to take. I wish more people would. Let's see, if I just... Nah, I lost. I've lost again. Let's see, there's a game called A Certain Magical Virtualon, which looks like another mech fighter. It launches February 15th in Japan. Let's see. for PlayStation 4 and Vita. It's a Sega game. Sega still makes games, it just doesn't make it for the West, it seems.
Possibilities.
Again, I'm pretty sure that this is a... Oh, this is an interesting one because it's a combination of Cyber Troops Virtual On and a certain magical index series, and makes the gameplay more comfortable experience for beginners to experience scores. Let's see. And so many of these games. The weird thing is you practically have to at least have a passing interest in anime if you want to play Japanese games. You have to at least know about them. Let's see. Because that's what I'm looking at right now, is just a trailer of anime kids that then transform into the robots, and there's the real gameplay function. And so much of this game these games are also just very little actual gameplay and tons of conversation and still animations. Well, so yeah, not much more data is going to come out from that. So we've probably gone about an hour, and while I haven't succeeded on the mage class cards quite yet, I'm going to be able to do that, I think. If anybody was online on the European account and wanted to help me with the Tavern Brawl on this one too, because we've got another Tavern Brawl on the Asian one, so I'm gonna bang my head against the Tavern Brawl until I can just randomly win. Stay tuned if you're watching live. That's it for this recording. We did the news a little weird today, certainly, having conversation in between news things, and I still have a ton of it. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.